an entertaining podcast is what we promised this week. What are we talking about?
We're talking about lots of big sports franchises have just been bought by people we've actually heard of.
Yes.
Jeff Bezos has bought a bit of Liverpool, among others, and Bob Iger, former Disney CEO, has bought the Lakers, among others.
And why? We're going to discuss.
Let's get into it.
Also going to discuss, we spoke a couple of years ago about micro dramas.
Yeah.
And now they are literally everywhere. And they started in China. And you'll be surprised to learn that there are developments in the Chinese micro drama industry, which I think people will find interesting.
Yes. And we're also going to be checking in on, as you know, my favourite cultural polymath, The Rock.
Friend of the podcast.
Whether or not he knows it, and what he's up to at the moment. There are musical developments.
Oh, yeah, he's got new plans.
He has
got new plans.
The Rest is Entertainment is presented by Octopus Energy. Now, 1 talent can make a career. 3 usually gets you an official title.
Yep, and that official title is a triple threat. You call triple threat anyone who can act, sing, and dance.
Now, these days, 3 can seem almost modest. The same person might write, direct, produce, and have another career on the side.
J-Lo would be a triple threat, huge music career, started as a dancer, huge acting career as well. It's an amazing talent to be able to have.
And now drinks mogul as well.
Is she?
You have to be the mogul now. I think the mogul is always the third thing now.
So she's a quadruple threat.
Yeah, I sing, I act, and I have a lifestyle portal.
But that phrase, all singing, all dances, it escaped entertainment, and now it's used for anyone and anything that does several jobs very well all at once.
Which is a pretty fair description of Octopus. It's the UK's largest energy supplier, one of the country's biggest installers of heat pumps, solar panels and batteries, and it runs a major electric car leasing business for good measure.
I mean, that's a quadruple threat, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a quadruple threat.
We start with sports organisations and sports rights. Now, I had an idea a little while ago. I thought one day on the podcast we should do what's the best way to make $1 billion in media? So say we had to start today, and in a year's time, we had to have built something that would make us $1 billion. I thought, that'd be an interesting item. So I was sort of thinking it through and think, it brings together lots of things we talk about. And then it's been blown out of the water this week by a man called Mark Walter, who is CEO of a company called Guggenheim. And he bought the LA Lakers, one of the biggest basketball teams in existence, one of the most storied sports franchises anywhere in the world, for $10 billion. And he sold them last week for $12.5 billion. So he has made $2.5 billion in a year for sort of doing nothing at all. And the question is why? And the question is, firstly, why did he spend $10 billion on the LA Lakers in the first place? Why is it worth that? And secondly, why, as you say, have Bob Iger, former Disney man, and Josh Kushner, it's a surname we didn't hear so much until a few years ago, why have they teamed up to buy it for $12.5 billion?
Yeah, you hear it all the time now. This guy's like the bloody Zelig of our culture, isn't he? You hear him, he's everywhere.
We've got Jared, who's currently in the Middle East solving that issue.
Yeah.
And we've got Josh, who has bought the LA Lakers.
Right.
And yeah, Josh Kushner is Jared Kushner's brother, but politically very different, apparently. Josh Kushner is something of a Democrat, they say.
Something of a...
Yeah, albeit a Democrat with a $2 billion stake in OpenAI, but it's something.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas Jared is less of a Democrat, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would probably try and say that he's kind of politically agnostic.
Yeah, I think it feels like he's got a touch of the Republican about him.
Touch of it, just a little touch.
The father, who's Charles Kushner, he first came into the media when he was jailed for a number of things, including hiring prostitutes to try and seduce his brother-in-law in a blackmail pact. It will shock you to learn part A of what happened next, which is Trump pardoned him. It will shock you further to learn that part B of that was Trump then made him ambassador to France. That's a family to be part of.
What an elegant diplomatic posting
Anyway.
That one is, yeah.
So Josh Kushner runs a company called Thrive Capital. And Thrive Capital are a venture capital firm. They were very early investors in Instagram. They've got a huge holding in OpenAI. So they invest in tech stocks and things like that. They now have an arm called Thrive Eternal. And Thrive Eternal, which for a company who is hugely invested in AI, Thrive Eternal is essentially trying to find any company that will not be destroyed by AI.
What, as a hedge against
against
their other investments?
Their enormous investments and everything else. And sports media
and this is the bit that Bob Iger, who was the long-time legendary chairman of Disney from sort of 2005 to the end of last year, and was widely seen as one of their greatest ever leaders.
He's a visionary. If Bob Iger's doing something, you should pay attention. Now, Mark Walter says this guy has just made $2.5 billion in a year. So buys the LA Lakers. You know, he owns loads of different sporting things. He owns a bit of Chelsea as well. He has not done anything particularly difficult in the last year, and he's made $2.5 billion. That tells you everything about sport. He bought this thing, $10 billion. He's going to keep it forever. He was then being investigated by the federal tax authorities and various other things. Needed a bit of quick cash. Then gets a phone call from Bob Iger and Josh Kushner saying, "Would you sell us the LA Lakers?" He's like, "Well, actually, I do need some quick cash. How much have we got?" They say $12.5 billion. It's done in 3 days. The whole deal is done in 3 days.
Yes. Incredibly
quick. And it was worth $10 billion to Mark Walter for sure. It's definitely worth $12.5 billion to Kushner and Iger as well. There will be a ceiling to this, but we haven't got close to that ceiling yet. It is a small amount of franchises, a really small asset class. There are more billionaires than there are sports franchises. There are more viewers out there who want to watch sport than want to watch anything else, and there's more loyalty in those viewers. So the money, we sort of even haven't scraped the surface of it yet, I think.
And there's a big debate as to whether sports rights are now just too expensive, prohibitively expensive, and not delivering the value that they should at those prices.
So why are people paying all this money? Why is Bezos also, he's part of a consortium essentially that's going to buy who's going to buy control in Liverpool. So they bought a small stake now, and they have the
right. They bought a third again, and the people they've bought it off, Fenway Sports Group, have made a huge profit on that.
They bought it for I think 406 million, and it's now valued somewhere around 7.5-8 billion. And you think that feels like quite a lot of money, but there's a unique set of things in our media universe that means that these companies are worth an awful lot of money. I mean, they're insanely expensive, and you know they're probably going to get a bit more expensive. There will be a ceiling, of course, but you know when you've got people like Jeff Bezos with this stake in Liverpool, he owns one of the bidders for sports rights. I mean, there's a virtuous circle there somewhere that people can keep pumping money around the same engine.
And obviously, both of these, Disney own ESPN, but Amazon are now showing games themselves. So you can see why there's sort of idea of synergies between not just the e-commerce side of it and the tech side of it. They're trying to get into actual owning the rights.
The biggest thing is the scarcity of sports franchises.
Yeah.
It feels like unfettered capitalism. It feels like, these guys, you know what? These guys are actually pushing out on their own and they're spending all this money and good for them. Actually, what they're doing, they're buying into sort of a socialist collective.
Well, yes, and actually it's interesting because what Iger could have done and what people thought he was going to do, this is a surprise, this particular deal, was that they're going to have a new franchise in Vegas. Vegas don't have a basketball team, blah, blah. So they were going to do one of those, and you can buy in at the start, and they thought that he was going to buy that. In fact, he's done, like when people say, rather in the way when actually the first people to have bought Liverpool, those dreadful ones that they got rid of eventually, Hicks and Gillett, when they said, you can't buy whatever it was, 120 years of history. What you can.
Yes, you really can. It depends how much money you got.
And so, yes, they are buying these big, big things. In the same way that Liverpool is now the top earning Premier League club. It's the fourth most valuable club in the world. So there are very few of these things.
Yes, and that's why they're so valuable. It's scarcity. This is why rich people have always invested in fine art or classic cars, because it is finite. There are not any more of those things being made. It's a very small asset group of things, and sport is that. So if we wanted to set up a chicken restaurant tomorrow, we could, and we could go on a high street that's already got 8 chicken restaurants. It doesn't matter. And if we make better chicken than everyone else, we'll make money. And that's supposed to be capitalism. We couldn't tomorrow go and set up a Premier League football team. It would be impossible. You could sort of set up a minor one and, take 15 years to go through the leagues and become a Premier League football team. But you can't do it. You can't go and buy you can't set up your own NFL team. As always, I should have realized, of course, the easiest way to make $1 billion is already have $300 billion. That's because then it's very easy to make $1 billion. So people are buying into these in the same way that they used to buy into classic cars or fine art. JP Morgan they looked at every single billionaire on their books and what those people earned. And 20% of their billionaires had a controlling interest in some sort of sports team somewhere. And over 30% had some interest in a sports arena or a sports team, which is more than now invest in fine art or cars. It's like one of the biggest asset classes now. If you're a billionaire, the safest place to put your money is sport. And the safest place is sport because it is protected, because there's not going to be any more of them, because the media rights, which is where it's interesting to us, the media rights are sort of held in a cartel, which is, if you're an NFL team, you all join together and sell those media rights to one particular buyer. You can't, the LA Lakers can't go off and do their own ones. A smaller team can't do their own ones. It's all cartelized. The whole thing is incredibly anti-capitalist, and that's why it's worth so much money. You add in then, of course, this insane level of kind of fandom that you get around the world. You say, okay, it's great, we got fandom around the world, but BTS could very, very easily be superseded in a few years by 4 other K-pop bands, whereas the LA Lakers can't be, because there's not going to be any more teams, or if there are, there'll be 1 or 2. So it's literally you can plan for the future, you can plan, forever and ever. And the absolute key to it, as you say, it's Thrive Eternal. It is AI proof. It is live, unscripted entertainment, which is something that AI can't do. And it's human. And all of these billionaires worked out quite a long time ago, like with Live Nation, concerts and things like that. The thing to invest in now, which I think is good news, is humanity, is things that are real, is things that will bring people together, is things that AI can't do, things that a computer can't do. And that's one of the many, if you add all those things together, that's why this guy has just earned $2.5 billion for doing absolutely nothing. And it all ties into the fact that, the Netflixes of this world are paying huge premiums for live events now. That's the stuff that they really, really want. For example, they're doing this brilliant new Luke Littler show. Have you read about this?
Yes.
Where 20 amateurs take on Luke Littler over one leg, and if any of them win, they win £501,000. And that's just a big,
will be watching.
Oh my God, everyone's going to be watching the big live event. And those are incredibly important to all the streamers and all the channels. You look at the BBC last week with the European Athletics Championships, just such huge ratings for them, like far and above the stuff that it was replacing at almost every turn. These things are incredibly important at a time where you're not getting 15 million for something anymore. If you get something that can really, really get you 3-4 million, and these sports things there's absolute gold dust for absolutely everyone. You can see where the money's coming from.
Yes, I also think that there's something. I mean, it's weird when you think back to, really just a few years ago, and people would be completely cringed out if anyone called football a product or content or anything like that,
or a franchise.
Now they really think of it. Not lots of the fans, because of course lots of the fans are opposed to this. We can get onto that, but they think of it as IP. Yeah. These people think of it as IP, and it's interesting because there is so much money in entertainment. If you think of sport as a branch of entertainment, there is so much money in entertainment, and it costs think of the other things that say Bezos has bought, Prime bought, all of the Tolkien stuff. But you've got to get a show like The Rings of Power going.
James Bond.
You've got, again, that one is, you've got to get it going. It's still a risk every time it goes out there. Sport is not a risk in the same way, because you have these incredibly invested fans. You have a huge history. You have archive, library, everything. It's an amazing asset in terms of it constantly regenerates. It constantly regenerates its stories. It can be always on. It's interesting what clearly Liverpool are attracted. By the way, also, these other lots of clubs, in terms of particularly in football, are thinking, okay, other people are owned by petrostates and they're backed by this kind of thing. In order to stay competitive, we need money, we need these things, we need inward investment. But what they're really attracted to in terms of that, the Bezos consortium, which is not just Bezos, it's Amit Bhatia and Eduardo Saverin, who's one of the...
who Andrew Garfield played in The Social Network.
In The Social Network. He's one of the Facebook founders.
He's buying it.
Yeah. And they like how global they are in terms of e-commerce and tech and all of those things, and the way that you can, particularly in India and Asia, and places that they consider still to be underexploited markets. then you see with someone like Bob Iger, what Bob Iger has done. Bob Iger understood franchises and how massive they were in quite a sort of early way compared to lots of other people in Hollywood. If you think what he did, maybe some of the biggest moves he did were to bring in, under the Disney marquee, Marvel, Pixar and Star Wars. Those are all Iger deals. When you buy this stuff and then you exploit it across the parks, the cruises, the merchandise.
Well, I was going to say, that's the other thing that Iger really, really understands is he sat at the top of a company that people thought just made cartoons, and he was able to look at the books and understand quite how much of Disney's fortunes rely on theme parks and cruise ships and real people going to real places to do real things and have real experiences. So that's absolutely in his DNA, which is why he sees sport as such an incredibly good fit for becoming much, much, much richer.
Yes. And as we said, it's the other thing that's sort of interesting about it is that we know it is appointment to view. We know that people come and they watch it live. You can make it global like they have with Liverpool. And it's this enduring IP. And the other thing about it, as you say, is it has already been created by somebody else. Yeah. I mean, by the way, so had Marvel and Pixar and Star Wars when he brought them under the Disney marquee. The Lakers is a long, storied, and it is an amazing. I mean, it's very cool. The Lakers is cool.
It is cool. Here's the thing to imagine. This is
it's much cooler than the New Vegas team.
Yes, it is.
We don't know about it.
But here's the reason sports is so crazy, and here's the reason sports is becoming so profitable. Imagine you could buy Taylor Swift. Imagine you could buy Taylor Swift, and you were assured that there are only going to be 20 other pop stars for the next 15 or 20 years. So you controlled her. There's only going to be 20 other pop stars and you could take all the money. That's what buying a sports team is. And imagine that all of those pop stars joined together, and anytime you wanted to hear a record or see a video, they all had to agree and they all got paid all at the same time. That's what sport is, which is absolutely insane. It's
incredibly expensive, but it is in some ways, I think, the least risky bet in entertainment, because, as I say, all these other things that they might be building up under their streaming banners or wherever it is, it might fail. In fact, as you always say, most things fail.
Yes, exactly.
This is something that isn't going to fail, because even if it's a disaster, this many people are still invested in it. There is a huge amount, and as we said, there's more entertainment out there than there ever has been, and lots of it is incredibly expensive. But it's unclear the value of lots of that entertainment. I mean, what would happen now they've Disney overexploited Star Wars? What is the value of that now? I mean, I would argue that it's problematic and it's overvalued. But also, I mean, the other thing, which is a whole separate podcast item really, is the cost of these sports rights. So the NBA wants to be a platform, and they've got an 11-year deal with Disney, NBC Universal and Amazon as well.
So the NBA is a national basketball association.
Yeah. Now, the rights to show the games, of which some of the games are Lakers games, are $76 billion. I mean, there is a lot of debate now, and we know this in football. Certainly know this in the NFL. Is it actually worth it, what people are having to pay? People have always historically thought it was worth it. CBS have thought to have the NFL kind of going through their pipes is worth it for the halo effect, but it is so unbelievably expensive. And you can see that it's getting parceled down, and the rights packages are becoming more sort of, you don't get all of it. Some of it goes, as we see, some games go to Amazon, some games go to wherever, but it's all appointment to view.
Yep.
I think it's better to buy the franchise than it is to be on the site, to be on the buy side if you're trying to get the rights, because the rights are so expensive now, and there is a big debate on what people do about the rights, because it is just so completely I mean, I don't want to say it's extortionate, but we did talk about cartels.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of is a cartel, and it's hard because as a fan, actually the idea of there being a fixed amount of franchises really, really works. That's why football really, really works. That's why the NFL really works, because there are a certain group of teams and you choose your one. If there are new ones coming along every 5 seconds, it sort of muddies the water a bit. Actually, it really, really works for fans. What doesn't work for fans is, of course, as soon as you have a small group of teams, small group of franchises, and they have this incredible economic power, and they can, sell the rights for huge amounts of money, they also can charge you whatever they want.
Yeah, and they can make you buy lots of different subscriptions, as we've seen now, which people hate even more. That in order to get everything, they've got to go to all, they've got to have lots of different subscriptions, whereas before they could get one package.
Yeah, and every year you've got 3 different new kits. There's lots and lots of ways of taking that fan base and making money out of them, which would not be the case if there were loads of competing franchises that could happen all the time. But I think the whole point of sport is that there are a small amount of franchises, and we all know what they are. We all know where they are. We all know which one our local one is. So I get that, but it is absolutely being. It's like kind of cows coming across a meadow no one's ever seen before that is literally just full of grass that is going to last them forever and ever and ever.
When I read the Bezos story, it was like, oh my God, are the same five guys going to just own everything, whatever it is?
Yeah.
It's like, I find it very, very depressing. And I do think that there's a reason why these richest men all want these kind of, doesn't have to be just sport. There are obviously the entertainment things as well. But there's something particular about sport that it seems like it's a sort of nexus of politics and business and entertainment. And if you looked at the recent World Cup and you saw just the people who are in the kind of absolutely expensive seats, which of course they love to show you with the American cameras and the FIFA cameras, it really is a sort of, it's a bizarre kind of talking shop where it's almost like an offshoot of one of those billionaire retreat conferences where they're all doing business together. And I find it really actually depressing that such a small number of people are going to own so many things in our world. So many of the sort of front-facing things, the things that people enjoy. And for it to be, for Bezos, both Kushners, they if you look at what they bought into in gaming and everything, they're just sort of buying everything.
Yeah. Well, sport is also, there's tremendous social capital in it. Never underestimate the fact. The thing with billionaires is if you've got $300 billion, then you can spend $12 billion like you might spend 25 quid on a night out. Right? Yes. They can just do it. And what they get for this, quite apart from actually it's an incredibly good financial deal, is they get to hang out with celebrities courtside. So the LA Lakers is like a real magnet for celebs, right? They get to sit next to Jack Nicholson. And that's worth billions of dollars for them because they are all star fuckers. They just are.
Guys.
Having billions puts you like absolutely level with like a minor actor. That's or a comedian you've seen on Mock the Week. You can go.
Kylie Jenner.
You can just it buys you into that world. When I remember when we were selling Endemol a number of times, the multiples we were able to charge were much higher than from a normal business because people wanted to be involved in show business. Yeah. And you could bring celebrities into meetings and people could meet them and they can talk about them at dinner parties. Sports is even more than that because if you get the chance to meet Cristiano Ronaldo, that is literally worth billions to you. And so they'll spend billions on it. The whole thing is a cartel. Of course it is. The whole thing is absurd. Of course it is. The whole thing makes such absolute sense for billionaires. But the key is, if you want to make $1 billion in a year, already have 200 billion and go and buy Leicester.
It's the best asset in entertainment. It's the least risky and most reliable because even if they're losing, it doesn't matter.
Because, there's a reason
why...
It's
all part of the story.
Yeah, there's a reason why people don't buy Coldplay, and that's because they know there could be 50 more Coldplays coming along. And so it's a riskier thing. Yeah. And also Coldplay might just down tools. If you buy the LA Lakers, you've got your star players and they retire. You've got the draft, you buy someone new. If they all go, that's it. That's the end of Coldplay. These sports things, they constantly regenerate, like the Sugar Babes or like Trigger's Broom. It's as the badge stays the same. Everything else changes. The money stays the same. The money through the turnstile stays the same. The franchise stays the same. You couldn't come up with a better business. I do think the real positive of it is, it's fun, listen, billionaires will billionaire. The real positive of it is it's a huge bet by people on human industry and real people and congregate. A huge bet by someone who has a massive stake in OpenAI, sure, but at least it is a huge bet on that. And there's lots and lots of people at the moment betting huge amounts of money on the fact that we're not all going to love AI and there's room for human creativity and human communion. And I think that's a positive. When we get on to China later, we'll have a slightly different take on that. But for now, it's a positive.
That's not such a cheery story.
Yeah. And while everyone thinks about investing in Port Vale, shall we go to adverts? And then after that, we're talking about The Rock.
Oh, so excited. This episode is brought to you by Lloyd's Rewards. Now, a big mistake that people make is leaving the cinema as soon as the credits roll because there might be a bonus scene right at the end.
They're absolutely one of my favourite things in the last. Yeah, you never know.
There used to be in Marvel ones, there used to be a mid-credit scene and then there'd be an end-credit scene.
I remember the first one I really remember, two. I remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off where he tells you to go home. at the end, but also Smokey and the Bandit with Burt Reynolds, where they would do bloopers. It just feels like a secret little glimpse into a different world.
And it doesn't quite have to be over.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a lovely little added bonus. You've done everything. You've made your show, right? You've given everyone everything. It's just a lovely little extra.
Which is also the idea behind Lloyd's Rewards. Extra value appearing inside something you were already doing anyway, your daily banking. From shopping to streaming, you can bank on Lloyd's to help your money go further.
It's rewards like this that make 14 million people bank on Lloyd's. Search Lloyd's Rewards in your app. Eligibility criteria, terms and conditions apply. Retailer offers and cashback amounts may vary. UK residents 18+.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, as you know, I yield to absolutely nobody in my admiration for The Rock. Dwayne Johnson, entertainment polymath, wrestler, movie star, high-intensity interval philosopher, skincare entrepreneur, tequila brand ambassador, self-styled future presidential candidate. You'll remember he claims that in 2022, both parties in the United States asked him to run for president.
Yeah, I can sort of see that. I can imagine the MAGA Republican Party going, do you know what?
Knocking at the door.
Yeah.
Knocking at the door. But he has been back at his GSD table. Remember, that's his get shit done table, his big wooden table which contains a lot of spirit energy, mana.
Yeah, it's like my Auntie Jan's craft table.
Yeah, it's just like Auntie Jan's craft table.
That's where she got shit done.
Yeah.
But that would be birthday cards and things, but it's still getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't yet gone into the birthday card business, but give it time because he's released a new music video.
Oh, no.
It's called Your Dad, which is just an amazing title, and we'll get to it.
Your Dad?
Yeah.
Your Dad?
Yeah. Well, let me get onto the content.
As in, is it with an apostrophe, like you are dad?
Your Dad.
Oh, like about your dad?
Yeah.
Like your mum?
It was originally called My Dad, but he asked for it to be changed to Your Dad so it could be sung to his daughters. We'll get to it.
Oh, okay.
As with any of these kind of little passion projects that are anything to do with business, as you know, the live action version of Moana sort of fell off the screens recently and didn't do very well. He's been struggling a little at the multiplex, The Rock. You know, he's a multiplex star. Anyway, he's done an interview with Rolling Stone, like we all do when we do a little, like your Auntie Jan probably does about her birthday cards.
Yeah, she goes, well, I started with the fuzzy felt, and then I thought, actually, you know, if I put pasta round the outside of this, yeah.
Anyway. And Rolling Stone obligingly asked him a question about, is he considering some sort of musical venture? And he says, well, I'm exploring that now, and I appreciate you asking that. As you roll along in life, I've been real fortunate to be part of some really cool projects, and I love it. But music has always been such an anchor for me, and very specifically in genres that I love, like country music, traditional country music. And we're exploring that now. You know what? With The Rock, there's always bits you don't know about, which I love, because his backstory, his origin story, which he tells you all the time, there are about 9 origin stories for The Rock. I can't go through all of them, but one of them is like he's a very successful high school footballer in Pennsylvania and then goes on to the University of Miami. However, we're doing a different origin story today, it turns out, because he's got an incredible origin story in music.
No way.
Yes, he was in Nashville for a long time when he was 15.
He's named after a type of music.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's not the one he's interested in.
No. Well, country rock. I would call myself country rock if I was him.
Yes, I mean, I think he wants to do a country album with soul elements. But he's got an incredible origin story in music. Only he would have this origin story. At a very early age, he says, my deep influences were Sam Cooke, Elvis Presley, George Jones, Merle Haggard, blah, blah. Guys like that who are just on top of their genres. And also Willie Nelson, who, as a matter of fact, gave me my first guitar.
No,
of course he did. Of course he did. You know the Trigger guitar he has, the historic one? I guess Martin only made 100 of those, and as a birthday gift, because I was a huge fan, he gave me one of those. He says, I play like dog shit compared to him. Oh, you do? Compared to Willie Nelson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen,
he's so
compared
humble.
to anyone else, I am amazing. But, oh, wow.
Anyway, and then it says, that's my musical start. Okay. This is something we don't know about The Rock, but okay. Yeah. Or was it? So then he's explaining
No, but by the way, that must be quite recently. Willie Nelson didn't give like a 7-year-old The Rock guitar, right? That must have been when Rock was already The Rock.
But he's also got another origin story for his musical start, because he says he was sent to Nashville because his father was in Nashville, but he was supposed to live with his dad, but it didn't end up happening. So anyway, I wound up living with a guy who was a stranger in a motel who's become one of my best friends still today, because that's what The Rock does. He keeps those people that came up with him.
Well, because he's very real.
His name is Downtown Bruno. We had no money. He was broke. I was broke. He was nice enough to let me live in his little hotel room. So this is the actual musical origin story now. The Rock now gets into it and he says, I was shoplifting donuts in a supermarket, one of those old-fashioned American supermarkets called the Piggly Wiggly, where you just go up and down the aisles. Okay, and he says he was singing while he was doing it. Okay, do people when they're shoplifting normally sing? I feel it's like one of those drawing attention to things.
Yeah, I'm not stealing anything.
But what happens is a woman comes up. The Rock obviously thinks he's being busted for shoplifting.
And he's got literally he's got sausage fingers with a donut around each one.
And needless to say, she says, was that you singing? Because, you're obviously so good.
Because we caught you on security camera.
Anyway, flash forward to the year 2026, and The Rock is considering this thing. He's got this song called Your Dad, which is written by a guy called Iam Tongi, who won American Idol, a Polynesian guy who won American Idol a couple of years ago.
So he doesn't even write his own stuff?
No.
Okay.
No. It was called My Dad, and The Rock says, can you rewrite it so I can sing it to my daughters?
Even though I didn't write it?
Now, what The Rock is also saying is this has nothing to do with business, which is with The Rock. I'm like, okay. So he says we must do the things we must do them for ourselves, and we must feel it in here behind our rib cage. But they're also always connected to some sort of commerce. He's talking about the 4-quadrant movies. You want to do them well, but he's not even interested whether this song does well.
No, he wants to feel it in his lungs.
There is no pressure of an expectation to deliver here. He just wants to say, he doesn't want to have to say, how are the sales? How are the streams? It's just from me to his daughters. He's done an interview with Rolling Stone about it, and he's released a video.
What if it turns out that Downtown Bruno was Bruno Mars?
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be amazing.
I think age-wise, there are some non-match-ups
That would be an issue,
but
okay.
maybe there's time travel.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he wants to do this.
Maybe that would be a hell of a sidebar.
Oh my God, that will...
Yeah, there's time travel.
At a certain point, he will claim to have time travelled, okay? There's just no question about it. But the other thing that's interesting me with The Rock is we talked about, he's the multiplex guy, as we know, and he wants to be the mogul as well because he's got this stake in with the wrestling company with Ari Emanuel. But remember, he went on that Oscar run last time round with Smashing Machine, and he's playing Mark Carr, the MMA fighter, and he made a big Oscar play, and he didn't get it. He got a Golden Globe nomination, which I think, he dined out on for a long time. But he went to Cannes, he cried at the thing. He spent 15 minutes crying. He did all the things you have to do to get an Oscar.
And they didn't give him one. Jeez.
So I thought he would retreat, licking his wounds, to the multiplex.
He's thinking, if you're not going to give me an Oscar, I got one word on my mind: Grammy.
Yeah. By the way, he's not given up on the O, because very recently, he announced a new film. It's called Free Bird. It's about a stunt motorcyclist who is covering up a dementia diagnosis. Oh my God, he is not done with the O.
Okay.
He is not done with the O. That is
the
biggest Oscar bait I've heard that he could do.
By the way, I thought he was rather good in The Smashing Machine.
He was. Yeah. It was the worst Safdie brother movie that year, but,
Yeah.
But
what are you going to do?
But he's not done with this. So what I'm interested in...
I'd love to see how he's going to win a Tony. I'd love to see him in A Streetcar Named Desire or something.
Oh my God, he would be hysterical. That's the first play I thought of when I thought of a Tony. You can just...
That's all
I would very, very much love to see his Stanley Kowalski. So that's where we are. He's not given up on the O of the EGOT, and he is maybe going to be a country star.
Wow.
And by the way, if you're ruling him out for a future presidential run, you're mental, because he's never rule him out.
No, he's
PGOT. He wants the PGOT.
He wants it, but I do think I've said before. I know someone who's been working with him on Jumanji, and he has only nice things to say about him. So there's something in there.
Yeah.
But perhaps we'll put a link to his song somewhere on our page here. I mean, it's kind of fine.
He's got an unshakable self-belief, and I will always be here for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to add to his Grammy haul, but who knows?
Literally 456 people win a Grammy every year, Richard. There's absolutely no reason he shouldn't get one.
Is that the easiest one to target of the EGOT? If we had
the
a
Grammy,
year,
I think, is the easiest.
Yeah, if we had a year, because you can win it for spoken word and things like that, can't you? Yeah. Okay. Let's meet back here, same time, same place next year, and see which one of us has won a Grammy.
Okay.
That's a film. That actually is a good film.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think like making $1 billion like by next year, I've seen that idea so many times. But we've got to meet up this time next year.
I wouldn't like to compete with you about that.
And one of us
but
has
I'd be
a Grammy.
happy to compete with you for the Grammy.
Do you think you could get a Grammy easier than me?
Surely not. But I would love to beat you. I'd love to beat you so much. Yes, I do.
Can I say something?
I back myself.
I couldn't lose either way. So either I'd be happy if I won one, or I'd be happy that you'd won one. And also, I'd be impressed. They don't have a podcast category, do they? But presumably they'll have one fairly soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Grammys.
They need to last 9.5 hours every year. So.
Yeah. So there's a possibility. If they introduce like a podcast category, we will machine tool one of our episodes as an absolute Grammy bait. And see if we can win a Grammy.
That's a great idea.
It's a really good idea. Now, on to microdramas. We talked about them a while ago. They're these things that you can watch on your phone. They're shot vertically, 60 episodes, all about 2 minutes long, and they've absolutely taken over the world now. Loads and loads of people in Hollywood are now employed in them. Lots of actors, lots of crew and over the world are employed in them. Every time you talk to a writer, they say, I'm thinking about doing a microdrama. It's a huge thing. So I thought it's worth going back to China and checking what is happening with it. And here's one they announced last week, a microdrama. It is called the Qinling Bronze Occult Chronicles. It's 60 episodes. It's like a time travel thing where two characters go back to the Bronze Age. It stars Qinling Yue and Lin Yan. And if you don't know them, they've also just set up accounts. They've just been introduced on Weibo and on Douyin and on Red Note.
Douyin is like their TikTok, even though TikTok is Chinese.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing about Qinling Yue and Lin Yan is they do not exist. They are AI actors. The whole thing is AI, and this is becoming incredibly prevalent in Chinese microdrama production. And anything, by the way, that becomes prevalent in Chinese microdrama production is probably going to head our way.
There's a crazy statistic that 122,000 microdrama titles were launched in early 2026, 95% of which were entirely AI generated using things like C-Dance, which is the ByteDance visual AI tool. I mean, a year before it was zero. A year before, every microdrama that was made in China was made with real people.
And now it's over 120,000. I think the weirder thing, because obviously when AI really sort of gets going, there will be things like 128,000, because loads of people just churn out absolute nonsense. The scariest statistic is that of the top 100 drama chart in January 2026, 38% of those are AI generated in some form or another.
And again, to just put it in perspective, it is so massive, microdramas in China.
Yeah.
They took the equivalent of 14.5 billion last year, which is double their entire cinema box office. And they are just completely huge.
So it's a lot. And as you say, that there's a bigger picture here, which is the race between America and China to dominate. AI is a huge deal. And China, I think, understands that, using things like microdrama, using culture is a very, very important way of showing how advanced their AI is. And as you say, ByteDance, who runs C-Dance, they also own the platforms, they own the technology. I mean, they're sort of a one-stop shop for this whole AI industry.
Well, it's much harder to do this in the West. They don't have the same sort of cultural and commercial pushback that we have when you find out AI has been used for anything at all.
Yeah.
They just want to be the fastest. And I think, to me, it's sort of interesting. One of the things that I think is interesting about the latest actors is that they're not just created for one AI outing, let's make a drama here. And
they're franchises,
They want to put and they are putting them in all sorts, they're going to create them as personalities, and then they will have careers effectively. They will go on and they'll star in other things.
And they'll do adverts. And, the beauty of it is, and listen,
they're posting now on social media as sort of personalities.
If you were just interested in the economics, then why wouldn't you? Because you own these people. They don't exist. So they're not going to renegotiate their contracts. They're not going to take a 2-year sabbatical. They're not going to have a substance abuse problem. They're not going to retire. You have them forever and ever and ever at the same age. You can make them younger, or you can make them older. They will work 24 hours a day. They can be in 60 different things, across a month, and then you put them straight into something else. They can be in movies in the cinema. They can do everything.
Just eliminate the humans, those annoying, messy humans from entertainment. It will be so much easier.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of managers have thought in their time.
I mean, it does make sense. But, I mean, as you say, so 38% of these dramas have some sort of AI generation, not all AI actors.
Of the top ones, that's what's so interesting. That people really like them.
Yeah. And I think that there is a tremendous amount of pushback. The good news is there's a tremendous amount of pushback amongst Chinese consumers about having AI actors. There is almost zero pushback about having AI sets or AI production or AI editing or any of that stuff. People seem in China to be very, very comfortable with that, which means the price of these things is absolutely plummeting. I mean, whereas the one thing, just this idea, as always, the 500 people it takes to make a drama, the only ones the audience is particularly concerned about are the actors, are the ones who are the best paid ones in the first place. So Qinlin Yue and Lindsay Yen, they are the big issue with them that it is believed that they are based very closely on actors who are already there. Their look is very, very similar.
Identifiable and who have said this is nothing to do with me.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've said, oh no, they're generated completely without influence. But
so Jiaze Liu, Zhao Jinmai, just real actors whose work this is taking. The makers of this is YouHug Media say, oh, it's absolutely this just coincidental that they look the same, but. As I say, 2 years ago, we started talking about microdramas when it hadn't really reached this critical mass. And now it has. And in Hollywood, lots and lots of people are throwing their weight behind them. They're throwing their money behind them. They're throwing their labor behind them. Lots of actors, lots of behind-the-scenes people. Now, that's what happened in China 2 years ago. An awful lot of people from the traditional Chinese film industry and television industry went into this world. Almost all of them are now out of work because the whole thing can be edited, shot, put together on one computer. The last line of defense seems to be this thing of actors. There is pushback against it. And 93% of the audience are saying, we do not like having AI actors in our programs. But how long that lasts, I don't know. As you say, there is a question as to how much this culture will travel from China to America or to the UK. And I think, as you say, there is a difference. There is much more cultural pushback already in our territories than there is in China.
But we have to acknowledge that AI is going to just be embedded in real productions. And it already is becoming so. Yes, I do think the thing about China that makes it sort of a particularly extreme example of it is that we know that in China, entertainers, performers are often sort of effectively culturally disappeared for perceived transgressions against, I don't know, moral codes or free speech or some sort of political act. This makes it, you're creating sort of factory-grown non-humans that never do anything that is deemed to be in contravention of the aims of the state. I find it very troubling for that reason, particularly. But it's interesting that lots of their consumers do. Although I am not sure, because I have to say that if that many of the top ones of the top microdramas are entirely AI generated and people don't mind.
Yeah, I don't think the top 38 are entirely AI generated. They have
not the top 38, but 38 of the top ones. If they are, and people don't mind about it, I do think that humans is the last bit. Yeah. And it's very sad that lots of below the line people don't think of them as the humans who made the film, but they are. I agree with you that I don't think people will like this here, but I just think the microdrama space is so weird. When you look at it, I've watched so many microdramas, and I do find them such a weird genre. There's so many, people call, as I've said before, people call it like OnlyFans for women. Yeah. And there are lots of these kind of weird things, I've talked about them before, like my billionaire CEO, werewolf boss, whatever. Yeah. I can, honestly, they're so odd, some of them, that I can see people not minding non-human.
I think exactly that. That's the thing that gives me some hope, because when you first look at the statistic, it looks terrifying. You think, oh my God, the world's about to collapse. I think microdramas are something very, very specific.
So do I.
And they are perfectly attuned to AI. I mean, they sort of developed alongside AI. They are very, very self-contained 2-minute episodes. They are very, very small casts, usually 2 people who don't necessarily have to interact in the same shot. The scripts are very formulaic. We know exactly where we're going each time. We're going to end on a cliffhanger each time. The visual identity of them is very, very, very narrow. So if AI were going to make anything, it would be microdramas. If AI was capable of making anything, it would be that. In the same way that AI could probably write you a page-long short story and get away with it, it can't write a novel because there's up after page 3, there's too much going on. I think that this microdrama thing, if anyone has seen these statistics out there and thinks the whole industry is doomed, I think that there are lots and lots of caveats, which means it's not going to come over to the UK and to the US in the same way that it is in China, and it's not going to come over to long form movies in the same way. Definitely, you look at the people, Ben Affleck investing huge amounts of money in AI production. There is going to be lots and lots of ways in which AI influences the production of movies and makes movies much, much, much cheaper and cost jobs.
It will be fully built into the whole process.
There definitely is that. If we're worried that someone is just going to press a button on a computer and the entirety of our culture is going to be produced there, I don't think that's the case. But certainly microdramas, it's insane that, AI wouldn't be making them. It's absolutely made for AI, and perhaps we let AI get on with microdramas and we can make everything else. But you see lots of actors as well, starting to think about licensing their voices, licensing their likenesses, and Matthew McConaughey's talked about it. Jeff Bridges has.
Celebrity digital clones is a big thing.
It's going to be huge. So in China, I don't know quite why they do this, but they will buy individuals' images and voices, and they will make an AI version of them for a flat fee.
Yeah.
So you can sell, as a non-actor, you can sell your digital rights to somebody I presume if you're attractive, and you suddenly become a movie star. I mean, it's a Wild West, and it's mental. And we've spoken many, many times before, but I genuinely think that art is about humanity, and there will be slop everywhere across the world, and there'll be certain industries where there's AI up the wazoo, but I think that human beings and human storytelling remains.
Any recommendations?
Yes, Apple continue their amazing run of form. I kept seeing The Dink advertised to me, their sort of sports movie about pickleball with Jake Johnson from New Girl, and I was like, oh, okay. And you look at the all the reviews, and they say, oh, perfectly pleasant comedy. And I should remember that no one can ever review comedies properly. And if someone says perfectly pleasant comedy, it's probably going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
And The Dink is brilliant. It's so good. Jake Johnson is so brilliant.
Oh, really?
Mary Steenburgen is so brilliant. I'm a sucker for those sort of slightly fake American sports movies. Yeah. Ed Harris is his awful dad. He's a former tennis star who crashed out against Andy Roddick years ago, and now is like a pro at his local club. And then there's this fight between the pickleball players who want more courts and the tennis players who want things kept traditional. It's really, really, really good. Anyone who loves comedy, Jake Johnson's brilliant in it. I mean, he just finds every bit of comedy. It's really, really charming. I loved The Dink. By the way, if you want something on terrestrial TV, I started watching the Grace series, the John Sims thing, because I saw it was written by Russell Lewis, who did Endeavour, which is one of my favourite things ever. And he's done a cracking job on Grace as well, particularly if you're from Brighton like me, because it's just full of Brighton things. But the Dink and Grace I really, really enjoyed this week. You've been away, so I'm gonna exempt you.
I've literally I've been watching DVDs.
Whoa.
Yeah. Whatever they had. That's
cool.
I've redone like all of the Coen brothers. I mean, can I recommend the Coen brothers as movie makers?
I haven't heard of them, but I'm going to look into them.
Look them up. They've made quite a lot of good stuff.
Thank you so much. We have a Q&A episode on Thursday. Look forward to seeing you all there.
And we have the second episode for our members of our definitive story of James Bond, and all the way from the Fleming novels through the cinema years. If you want to join for ad-free listening and all those bonus episodes, it's therestisentertainment.com. Otherwise, we'll see you on Thursday.
See you on Thursday.